Welcome to another edition of the Deals for Dentists podcast. And today we're joined by Edward Vilga. And you can go to Deals for Dentists and you can find his promo offer, which is he is offering a $100 discount on his newest offering from Executive Yoga, which starts on July 10th. So Edward, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, so Executive Yoga, no incense, no chanting, right? It's a unique 8-week
Exactly.
course for people who have too much stress, and it's only 12 minutes a day and it's all online. That is super cool. So
Yeah.
Edward,
Yeah. Yeah.
you are not your average yoga instructor. You
I am
eh,
not.
you've been on in over 100 articles, interviews, TV shows. You're a world famous wellness person with 17 books, DVDs. You've appeared on Oprah's magazine and in People magazine, and you've been on TV with Keller Ripa. So that is kind of a big deal here. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so tell us all about executive yoga and like, how can it help us with our stressed out dental professionals here?
Well, I believe that it can because I've been teaching not just yoga but wellness things, but a lot of yoga for about 20 years. Pretty much right after college, right? I went to Yale and I began. I was always interested in this world, but I became a yoga teacher out of my own practice and my own desire. It wasn't like I envisioned that, but what I found is that I began teaching major audiences and had all this commercial success. But what I really found is that a lot of people needed a way in, especially busy professionals. So right after college, I suddenly found this niche of teaching a lot of guys, particularly women as well, but in the private lessons, a lot of stressed out executives, stressed out lawyers, stressed out doctors, stressed out dentists, people who were really busy, who were really smart, who really wanted to, who knew that they needed to de-stress, who everybody in their life, their wife, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their business partner was saying, you need to do something, but they either didn't have a way in, they didn't know where to start, or they thought, I'm too inflexible to start stretching. I don't know where to begin doing this. Or they just, felt left out of the conversation. So I began to reach this audience through different projects and products. And this one I'm really excited about because, the name executive yoga is kind of fun, but it's really designed for that person who's, listen, I'm really busy. I've got 10 minutes a day, but I need to de-stress. So it's a way into all of the yoga basics, all of the stretching, all of the breath work, the meditation, that's not going to, require going to an ashram for 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's you had such a good point there where I remember I've been doing yoga I think for, you know, 20 years, and I wish I had started way earlier in life, as
Hmm.
playing professional or not professional, competitive sports um, my whole life. And I wish I had done it way sooner because I think it helps you, in all aspects of your life, but especially, um, early on in my athletics. Um, but I started doing yoga, and I remember some of my friends saying, "I can't do yoga. I'm not
Right.
flexible enough for that." And I'm like, "Well, that's why you do it, because
Exactly.
it gets you more flexible."
Exactly. That's the whole point. And I think, but I do understand it though. I do understand that so much of the fitness industry markets itself so that it's like, here's a crazy pose, and people look at that and think, I can't do that. Whereas I've designed this whole program to be accessible so that, whether if you're athletic or you're not athletic or you're flexible, there's a way in and there's a way to modify.
Mhm.
And that is one of the biggest myths, is that people are like, well, I can't do that because I'm not flexible. It's the only way to get flexible is to move into that kind of stretching.
Yeah, and dentists and dental professionals, hygienists, and not just hygienists and dentists, but our dental assistants, our front
Mhm.
office, our back office, they're sitting at a computer at a desk all day.
Yeah.
And, they drive home and they're exhausted and they may not have time to go to a whole hour and a half yoga class. Um, but dentists and hygienists, we are in this awkward position
Hmm.
for, minutes at a time, staring at a 1 millimeter space in very unnatural positions.
Right.
And when you do that over and over and over again, it takes a toll on the body.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. You know, I know from just even the moment we were talking about this before that I thought that that's so obviously true that it's with so many professions, whether you're at the desk or not, but I think particularly with someone like a dentist, you are probably no one's encouraging you to move, you know, and to stretch and to
Mhm.
release the tension. And what happens is that it just accumulates and it gets worse, and yet there's no way around it if you don't stretch. And so having um, I really think that of the executive yoga classes is like a toolkit so that you'll have tools so that for the rest of your life, you'll be able to throw in a few stretches throughout your day. One of the things that's really great about it is that there's a short lesson every week. It's all online. I sort of created this in the middle of the pandemic. Uh, and every day you get a daily reminder, you know, of here's 3 to 5 minutes of stretches. So you can keep that alive and really deepen your practice, but just it's the consistency is the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. I get those emails and it's like, oh yeah, I got to stretch.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the physical, positions that we're in, but then there's the mental aspect to it where, sometimes I'm seeing, 20, 20 patients a day, 30 patients a day.
Hmm.
And by the end of the day, I am exhausted.
Yeah.
So we need to decompress somehow. And there is no better way to do it than with yoga. But yoga, I feel like is not only the great stretching of the body, but the breathing.
Yes.
Um, because I'll notice when I'm doing a procedure or surgery, and if I don't think about it, I'm doing these like short little quick breaths and I'll snap out of it and then I'll start to, breathe, a little smoother and deeper. And it's a big difference when you start to focus on your breathing as well.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because we've all obviously been breathing from the moment we arrived in the world. But what happens is almost everyone is a shallow breather, is miserly with their breath, and yoga retrains you to breathe more fully, and that has a huge effect on your body, but also your mental state. And so even it's interesting. I've taught so many workshops and things where I will begin with 30 seconds of a breath exercise, and you can feel how the room shifts, how people refocus, they center. And having that is something that's part of your life and part of your health regime is just invaluable.
I think that's a good thing to do, even for a dental professional before a procedure, just do like a 30-second, breath exercise. And it'll reduce so much stress and you'll be more refreshed for that procedure.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's funny. I didn't think of this till now, but one of the things that I always say is that I always preach is about, as I've mentioned, consistency. And so it is infinitely better to do 5 to 10 minutes a day of yoga than to try to get to a yoga class once a month or twice or once a week for an hour and a half. But I would say it's the same thing as is dental care. It's like you would never say to a patient, listen, as long as you brush your teeth once or twice a month, but brush them for an hour and a half, you'll be fine. It's like, no, you've got to do this a couple times a day. You don't have to do it forever, but you have to do it on a steady basis. So it's, the dental profession is like all about consistency of good hygiene and habits. And so that's what you want yoga to be like.
it's like the people that come in and I know they haven't flossed for 6 months and they just flossed like right before they came in.
Right.
I'm on to them.
Yeah.
Um, but your whole executive yoga, it's for people that are busy, and it's a great entry because 12 minutes is nothing. It's You're
No,
not driving to a yoga class and doing a whole hour and a half. 12 minutes is a great way to get your day started, or do it at lunch, or do it at the end of the
yeah.
day.
And
um,
it's even probably less than that because the weekly lesson, there's a weekly lesson. It's all online. It's all taped. And although I do Q&As, but that's probably 30 minutes. But then the daily practices are like 3 to 5 minutes. So
mhm.
it's really so accessible. We sort of averaged it out to 12, but you can create tremendous results with just that minor amount of time, major results.
Yeah, I used to do yoga after work,
Mm,
and I would wait until the end of the day and do it, and I felt so good. But I still would have back pain during the day, and I was for
mm,
some reason I had this mindset like I had to wait until after work to go and do a yoga session or a workout. And then I also started doing it the morning of. I'd go to like a 5 a.m. class, and I felt really good. I would still have back and neck pain.
mm,
Now I actually constantly do it throughout the day,
yeah,
where my office, my back office, I have a yoga mat, and my staff is so used to me like talking to them while I'm in like warrior one position. They don't even think it's weird anymore.
I love
Or
that.
I'm in like a tree pose and I'm talking to them about a patient. So I'm constantly doing it throughout the day. And also I have a stand-up desk, so I don't sit anymore.
That helps.
And my back pain, I get twinges here and there, but my neck and back pain are like almost gone now.
That's fantastic. I mean, I love, again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not prescribing things to people, but I have many, many stories of people just like you in different professions, different walks of life, who simple stretching cured a problem.
And I'm not taking as much. I used to pop Tylenol, and
Mhm.
it's I'm not taking as much anti-inflammatories because of it, because I'm constantly doing it. Um, did I read that you have over 50,000 online students?
I do. In I because I have a lot of them in courses which I'm teaching about bringing wellness aspects to prosperity and financial things. So there's 50,000 students in those courses. Like for my yoga DVDs, I think like it depends how you slice it, but they've been viewed over 1 million times. So I guess I have 1 million students. But people who've actually paid me money to be in my various wellness and things, there's over 50,000 of them right now.
That is unbelievable. So tell me about your experiences with the dentist.
I mentioned this to you before, but it's very funny. But my I've had a rocky dental history. I'm on the good side of it now, but I on my first trip to the dentist as a kid, I had 26 cavities. I was a very willful child, and I think my parents just gave up. My mother's great; she's around still, but not. But like they just basically were like the teeth are gonna fall out. So I guess they just stopped, and I was the first grandchild from my grandparents who just did nothing but give me candy. And so my first dental visit was 26 cavities in those baby teeth. And and then I went through a period of where I was very neglectful. Like I think a quote I love is like neglect is. I was super neglectful of my teeth, and had all these problems. But now I have become like the perfect. Like my dentist is like your hygiene's excellent, and I um I I learned you had to take it seriously, and that the steady treatments and the checkups and everything really paid off. But I was not a dental fan for a while there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about the grandparents. My in-laws come over, and it's like every time they're giving my kids snacks, and I'm like, really, you're gonna do that right in front of me? I'm a
I
dentist,
know.
but I can't say no to them.
Yeah.
So now you also you have your online program. You also have a yoga studio, and do you do one-on-ones?
I don't. I mean, I used to. I used to do them all the time, but that's why I created this program because I can only teach so many people and I'm crazy expensive. But I used to. I mean, for about 10 years, that's how I made a very good living in New York, was running around and teaching. Now I do a couple of donation classes and things like that online, but I haven't taught one-on-one in a while. And then pre-pandemic in New York, I was teaching a couple of public classes. But for me, it was really about connecting and meeting the people. Less about anything else because I had taught for so many years, and so part of the reason I created the executive yoga is because I can't teach. I have a limited number of people I can teach one to one, and people who can afford me. So I wanted to make this affordable for most people, to offer discounts to your clientele. And if somebody has a practice and wants a bunch of people to do it, send me an email, we'll figure something out. But I really do believe in the accessibility of the yoga. I mean, I did a DVD. The thing that got me into Oprah's magazine and also into literally into bed with Kelly Ripa was I wrote a book and a DVD called Yoga in Bed, which I thought was kind of playful and fun, but I really believed in it, which was it's easy stretches anybody can do in bed. Um, Completely accessible, charming, colorful. It's been translated into about a dozen languages. That's one of the DVDs that's been bootlegged or is available for like a million or more times. I actually give it away now. I give the content away, but it got me into a lot of good press things. But part of it was I wanted to make it so that to demystify yoga, to make it less scary, to make it more accessible, to make it more for a wider audience. So my mother, does yoga in bed stuff and other things like that. And I still get emails from people from all around the world thanking me for it. And it really is. I think there's something really profound about making it so that it's steady and it's accessible.
Yeah, I think that accessibility is so key because there was a lot of times where I just couldn't make the local studio schedule, and then I was out of luck. I would just not go. But now that it's online, you can do it anytime, anywhere. Is
Yeah.
that is that something you pivoted during because of COVID, or were you doing this pre-COVID?
Well, I began doing the DVDs years ago. Like, the first DVDs I did because, it was sort of just a career move, but also like I wanted it to be more accessible. But I wasn't teaching yoga stuff really online until COVID. And then I
Yeah.
was approached by a couple of places to teach, and I began doing some donation classes, and I began really seeing the need for it. So there is kind of a harmony. Like I was doing books and DVDs way before COVID. I was doing online courses in general before COVID, but this is my first real take this 8-week course. You can start knowing nothing. You can start not being able to touch your toes. I'll guide you through it. We won't take up that much of your time, but it'll be invaluable. So that is partly a COVID response for that.
Yeah, and after that 12-minute session, you're going to feel better. You're going to feel
Yeah.
better than when you started, for sure. Um, Now, and like how you said, no incense, no chanting. Is that kind of like one of the biggest misconceptions of yoga? Would you
Well,
say is
it isn't. It isn't because there is a lot of incense and chanting, depending where you go. I mean, partly it's like a lot of the when I started teaching privately. This is like 20 years ago. A lot of the people I was teaching for private lessons didn't want that or were scared of that. They were like, I don't know how to chant. I don't want the incense. So, and I love some of that. I mean, I love, part of that, but I also get that it's not for everybody. And so I think that part of the reason why people are often feel outside of it is like they don't quite know what kind of yoga or where to start, or they do have some. I mean, it is a misconception. Not all yoga involves chanting. Not all of it involves incense. Um, Not all of it involves, and there's such a wide range of styles from super sweaty, difficult classes to hot yoga to uh, more exotic practices that I wanted to give people a way in that was universal.
that's awesome. Now, what advice would you give to young dentists or dental professionals or any busy professional out there?
Well, I just repeating myself, but it's worth repeating, which is find a way to have a physical stretching practice in your life and a breathing practice. If it's not with me, there's a million other ways to do it, but don't have it be the thing that's kind of, at the top of the mountain and you're going to go there on Saturday on your day off, or that you're going to, aim for this 2-hour class. Aim for steady, and I really think daily smaller amounts are better than huge intense amounts. And to address both of it, which I do in the course, it's both physical and just some basic breath work. And I
Mhm.
didn't really believe it at first. I was kind of, a moderately, quietly athletic person when I started the yoga stuff. And I was like, yeah, breathing. But then once you're into it and you realize it's how central it is to the whole experience.
Yeah. So, and I also think, these, when you first come out of dental school or hygiene school, and you get these little, little minor aches and pains, and, maybe they come and go, but over a long career, those are going to add up, and they're going to could become a major problem. And you could get injured where you're missing work, or you're just in pain. And pain is pain. No one's having fun when they're in pain.
Yeah. And these things rarely self-correct.
Hmm.
I mean, every now and then a pain will go away, but but things become worse, and ignoring them. I mean, that's what I do with my teeth for many years. Those cavities did not fix themselves, and weirdly, and so I learned, the value of steadiness and good practices and consistency.
Yeah, and I remember my so I was doing yoga in my back office. I've created my back office to be my little getaway. And I can't wait to get back there. I got my yoga mat, my stand-up desk, I got,
Right.
a exercise ball, I even have a bar to hang from. And my new assistant, who I think she was like 20 years old at the time, and she was brand new, and she's like, "Why do you do yoga?" I'm like, "You'll see." And then,
Mhm.
like 6 months into the job, she's complaining of her neck and her back. And, now
Yeah.
she's, you know, being more diligent with stretching and exercising. But, these little aches and pains, that they add up for sure.
And I don't know, but I would bet money on it that probably in all your training, nobody trained you otherwise. Nobody probably said, you're going to be sore here, it's just sort of a given. So often with people, they take it as that way when it doesn't have to be, because if you watch animals, like my dog used to, they stretch constantly. They get up, they stretch. And
Hmm.
we as people just do not. And we do weird things with our bodies all day. And then we don't stretch before or after. And then we have problems.
Or people start taking, they start sedating themselves with,
Yeah.
anti-inflammatories, or reducing the pain, artificially. Um, but you can do it naturally just by
Yeah.
stretching, breathing. What are your thoughts on meditation?
Well, I'm a big fan of meditation. I think meditation also has several myths about it too, because I think for some reason, I mean, I think at this point, everybody knows they should be meditating. If you're remotely aware of, the health industry, you know that there are a million studies and there's so much proof. Um, but I think it can also be something that people feel on the outside of. One of the biggest myths I think about that is it has to be a certain length of time, like 20 minutes. It doesn't. I mean, I think you can build up the quote unquote meditation muscle. You can just have a minute of meditation. I also think with meditation, there's so many different styles of meditation. And I don't think everybody's aware of that. Some people might think it's just chanting or that it's just silence, but there's so many ways that you can find a way into a meditation practice that works for you.
So similar to yoga and stretching and breathing, you really
Yeah.
don't need to do it for that long, just a little bit, and be consistent and do it, as much as you can throughout the week, if not every day. Or like I do with my stretching, I'm doing it throughout the day.
Yeah.
Um, Now, do you offer, like, if I have a question, can I contact you? Is there like a group forum or?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm super accessible, and I have a team, but I'm easy to reach these days. So I've created the course so that it's online, and because of the pandemic, although it's shifting, but I wanted a bigger audience and I wanted it to be accessible, but it's recorded, so you can watch it whenever you want. But I'm going to do several Q&As, probably like three, but I might do more if there's a demand for it, so that because I want you to be able to ask questions, and I also respond to emails pretty quickly, as you know, so that people can ask me specific questions. I'll do a couple of group Q&As. And there's another option, which if someone's interested, which is I have a bunch of teachers I've trained. And so if you can do the program with me, and it's pretty affordable. It's like it's $400, and I'm giving you guys $100 off, so it's 25% off. But you can click a button and get one of my private teachers and have a 30-minute private every week, which is the right answer for some people, because some people are going to be like, listen, I really want to make sure I'm doing everything right. Other people will be like, I don't need that. So I'm accessible, and you can also just hire one of my guys or gals to double check that you're on the right path.
Yeah, it's initially when I was first starting out, I felt like I needed to be there with
Yeah.
some guidance to get my positioning right. Um, so that's a nice option to have, that that 30-minute session with one of your team. Now, what is the Radical Abundance Challenge?
Oh yeah, that's on my website. So a lot of what I've been working, in this whole wellness sphere, starting with the yoga is a career stuff, but really applying these philosophies, this holistic approach to many things. But a lot of my courses are about wealth and abundance and prosperity. And so if you go to my website, there's a free thing. It's a series of 8 emails. It's called a Radical Abundance Challenge. It has to do with my new book, which I'm working on, but it's every day for 8 days, you get an email. It's about rethinking how you're approaching money and prosperity and spirituality from a more holistic point of view. And I'm getting great response from people. And yeah, check it. It's also a way to get to know me and how I approach things too. Totally free. You can sign up on my website.
So is this going to be your second book?
No, it's like my 7,000th book. So I wrote, I wrote yoga in the yoga world. I wrote Yoga in Bed and Yoga for Suits. And then I have another academic book, but I'm just looking at my own bookshelf. So I think I've had one, two, three, four, five, I think it's like 6 books. It's something like 6 books, 8 course. I can't remember, but I've had a lot of books published. And it's tricky. I'm looking at them over now too, because a lot of them are in different languages. But the new book, we'll see what's going to happen with it. But I'm really excited. It's part of another course I'm doing for a huge website called Everyday Health, which is an enormous course. It's actually been very interesting because it's Everyday Health is a major outlet of health stuff. It's something like 60 million page views a month, and social reach of like 30 million. And I'm doing a course for them about spirituality and money and prosperity, but it's very science based. So unlike a lot of the things where I can just say things which I know are true, like I'll say something like the breath is the best way to center yourself. And my editor at Everyday Health will be like, okay, well, we need 7 different studies proving that, and I can find them. So it's been
Mhm.
interesting. So I've been into a sort of deep science, factually substantiated view of everything I'm teaching, which has been great. I mean, it's been really great. Not that I didn't believe and know, but it's like, it's not only is it all true, it's all true and proven by science that a little bit of stretching and some meditation will really help you.
Do you find that, let's say someone like a writer who's having a writing block, or someone who's trying to be creative, or an entrepreneur who's trying to think of their next project, that sometimes there's some blockage, and is this a way of you kind of opening those blockages and creating that spirituality and creativity, and that helps them in their profession?
Yeah, I mean, I do coach with some people one-on-one, rarely for things, but I think, I mean, there is a way in which that all of the work I'm doing, when you're releasing tension in the body and when you're centering yourself through the breath or meditation, even for a short amount of time, it frees things up. You simply feel better. You see things with fresh eyes. Your perspective shifts. So I think that is a huge part of it. Is that there's also provable. There's a lot of obvious common sense of if you're stretching, you will release muscular tension, but you will also improve your mood and sort of a nebulous term, but your mindset.
Now, your studio is in downtown Manhattan?
My studio is in my house, because I'm only teaching the online stuff. So we're recording it at a studio, but I do not, I'm not out there in the world teaching physically these days with people.
Now, did that change because of COVID, or had that been changed for a while?
Well, I mean, it was, for me, I've been doing this for about 20 years. And so um, there was a time when I was out teaching a million people one on one in classes. And then, frankly, I just, became more successful in doing it on my own and writing books and courses and things like that. So, right pre COVID, I was not teaching at my own studio. I was teaching at a couple of, I was teaching on the weekends. I would go out and teach a yoga class sort of for fun. But I mean, I haven't taught privately in about, I don't know, 5 to 10 years,
Hmm.
really. And but I do like going out and teaching because it feeds my soul. It's good to go out. It's nice to connect with people. I believe in it. So but I'm not someone who's ever wanted to own their own studio. I don't want the headache of it, and um, I want to reach a bigger audience without being confined to one space. So for me, pre-COVID, yeah, I was out there teaching at someone else's place, which I really liked. But I actually kind of like staying home and doing online stuff a little bit more. It's easier in terms of uh, it's just very focused, and I really, really like it. And I love creating this program. I mean, this has been really fun to create, and it's what's the other thing that's unique about it is that you can go out and find a million yoga classes online. It's very easy to do, of different degrees of quality, but then it becomes kind of overwhelming of like, where do I start and why do I choose? But the one of the differentiators of this program is that it's the only one I know that's self-contained, meaning here's an 8-week course, lesson one, lesson two, whatever, that we're going to grow somewhere. If you want to go out and find a beginning yoga class, you can do that, but it's designed to be ongoing. So with this, one of the things that was really good is to think about, okay, I have you for 8 weeks, and I want you to take this and be able to go out and feel comfortable. Like if you take this 8-week course, you could show up at almost any yoga class, and it would feel familiar. I mean, obviously there could be different things, but you would feel comfortable. And so I liked creating something that was designed to give you this toolkit, so you don't have to ever go to another yoga class. You can do the poses on your own. There are printouts and there are daily reminders. But if you do want that, and there's something great about it. I mean, part of me does miss, the fact that I'd go and there'd be strangers and I would share things. Super, super fun. But I think the bigger impact is sharing the heart of it with as many people as possible.
Yeah, and it's a very unintimidating way to get started. And I think that dental professionals can take this to their, to their everyday life, but also you can do it in between patients. If you
Yeah.
just, finished up a really stressful procedure, do a little stretching, some breathing, and you'll be re-energized for that next patient. So I think that's awesome. So Edward, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have any like, last words of wisdom or nuggets for anyone out
Uh,
there?
just that repeating myself again, however you do it, find a way to move on a steady basis, find a way to breathe. Don't be afraid of meditation. It's there for you. These practices do work. I've taught them to hundreds of thousands of people. And explore, find a way in, and make it work for you.
Because these aches and pains, like you said, they're not going to go away on their own, and you only get one body, so you got to take care of it. So Edward, thank you so much. Again, you can go to Deals for Dentist and you can find Edward Vilga's Executive Yoga. He's offering $100 discount on his newest offering from Executive Yoga, which starts on July 10th. Edward, thank you so much. Let's be in touch.
My pleasure.